29-year-old Bostonian Steve Callahan is halfway through the sailing trip of a lifetime.
I remember the first time I went out sailing. I love the immediacy of it. You can go off and have an adventure.
He's already sailed from the USA to the Canary Islands and is now heading off on the 3,500-mile return leg, back across the Atlantic to the Caribbean.
Testing.
I figured on the very outside it would be a month to get to the Caribbean, but I'd probably make it in a few weeks.
For Steve, the trip is an adventure and also a means of escape.
My life was in a bit of a shambles. My marriage had gone south and we had split up. There I was, ready for a new stage of my life. The weather just started turning dirty. It was probably blowing 35 or so knots. And the waves started growing.
For an experienced sailor like Steve, it's nothing out of the ordinary.
I'd seen a lot worse weather before. And so I figured, well, it'll probably be a day or two and this will scoot by. I wasn't worried. Everything was fine.
As night falls and the rough weather continues, Steve switches on the autopilot and beds down for the night.
People think that sailing is a very quiet undertaking. It's not. Big waves are slamming against the side of the boat. You get this quite jerky motion, but I was still able to kind of lie down, and I was kind of half asleep. All of a sudden, there was this big bang on the side of the boat. There was just this huge flood of water immediately.
Steve has no idea what he's hit, but the boat's hull has been torn apart.
The water was rising very, very quickly.
Within seconds, the water is above his head.
I just thought, this boat is going to be underwater. I'm going right to the bottom.
Steve's boat is sinking. He knows he has seconds to get to the life raft up on deck.
So I yank on the line, and if the line keeps coming out, no, nothing. It just didn't work at all. Finally, boom, it pops open.
Steve makes it to safety. But just as he's about to cut himself loose, a terrifying thought hits him.
With the equipment that's in the raft, I will not last very long at all.
Everything he needs to have any chance of survival is stowed deep inside the flooded boat.
It was essential that I go back on the boat and dive down and get equipment. Even though I realized that the boat could slip under the waves at any moment.
Against every instinct, he knows he has no option but to dive back down into the sinking boat.
It was all dark in there, so I couldn't really see anything. I could feel the ditch kit. It was tied down. And I started cutting away.
Steve frees his emergency supply kit. But just as he makes it to the exit hatch,
The hatch slammed closed. The boat's covered with water. I'm going down. I thought that was it. If I don't get out of here right now, I am going to die. There's 100% certainty of that.
but just as Steve's lungs are about to burst, a huge wave breaks across the boat.
All of a sudden, there's air. It was a huge, huge relief.
With only seconds to spare, Steve escapes, clutching his vital emergency supplies.
I jumped into the raft and I saw that I was drifting away from the boat.
Steve can only watch as he drifts away from not just his boat, but also his dream.
I went drifting off into the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It just was kind of devastating. That first night, it blew hard. Really cold and really wet and really scary. I was shivering a lot and I was worried about dying of hypothermia. I might not make it till the morning.
The currents are pushing Steve westwards, towards the shipping lanes, his only chance of rescue. But he's over 2 weeks away, with only enough water to last him a few days.
It wasn't going to keep me alive very long. You know, I'm taking a little sip every now and then, hardly even swallowing it, really. It's just being more absorbed. I'm getting really thirsty.
Steve ekes out his supplies for a whole week, but knows his only hope are the solar stills. But first he must understand what he's doing wrong.
It was critical to figure out how to use these things. Just like go back just from square one and try to figure out how does this thing actually work.
It's a drastic step, but he decides to rip one of his 3 precious stills apart, in the hope that he can work out how to make them produce fresh water.
Right.
And then it finally dawned on me, it had to be inflated just the right amount. the solar still to produce, I'm talking a spoonful of fresh water, was like the hugest high I could possibly have.
Steve now has a tiny supply of water. But after 7 days at sea, he faces yet another problem. He's run out of food.
I was really hungry, just like really struck me how desperate I had become. There's no way I'm gonna live out here.
For days, Steve continues to try and catch fish, but to no avail.
In the physical sense, it was incredibly depressing. In terms of what I'd felt like I had done with my life, it was depressing. It was the most hellish time in my life.
All Steve's attempts to catch fish have failed. But if he gives up, he'll die of starvation.
I knew that this was not going to be easy. The fish has got to be right under the spear tip.
Yes!
By day 14, I've caught my first fish and I've produced water. So now, as long as the raft stays in one piece and I keep my act together, I might be able to live out here indefinitely.
For the first time in 14 days, Steve has a sense of hope. But the vast and deadly ocean is not about to let him rest. After a month at sea, Steve has drifted right through the shipping lanes, unnoticed. And back home, nobody even knows he's missing.
So pulled with emotions. That was the first time I cried. And it was like, this is the state of my life. What are you doing out here? My life just seemed completely and utterly as open and empty as the ocean.
Steve has drifted an epic 700 miles, but now faces a devastating new reality.
It was really very depressing because I just didn't think that I could fix it.
Steve knows the punctured raft is a disaster. He's going slower, wasting precious calories pumping it up, and now faces an even bigger problem.
I started consuming both water and the fish that was hanging to dry. I was unable to renew that stock while the bottom was deflated. I imagine it wouldn't have been a whole lot longer before I would have died. And then I got scared. This is very real, and you're going to be dead in a matter of hours if you don't snap out of it and get yourself together.
In a final act of desperation, Steve searches for anything that might save his life.
And it just, something happened, and it just clicked, and I go, oh yeah, the fork.
Steve hopes that a fork might just be strong enough to secure a patch to the raft.
I couldn't jump around and jump for joy or anything, but that was just like the hugest victory of my life.
Steve now only has 3 cans of emergency water left, and his body's toxic salt levels are pushing his sanity to the limits.
The physical part of me is going, hey, there's water over there, let's go snag that. But there was that overbearing rational part of me that was going, no, 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 I don't care. Unless, you know, you are dying, you're not getting into that right yet. This is a view of heaven from a seat in hell.
Alone on the ocean for over 70 days, Steve's body and mind are now shutting down. His only hope is to reach land.
I expected to see the islands like days and days before now. I should be reaching the islands. I should be seeing some sign of reaching the islands.
But then Steve has a shocking realization. If he's miscalculated his position, currents will sweep him back into mid-ocean and certain doom.
Maybe I'm way north of the islands, next stop England, you know, 8 months from now. So that was tough. I was very worried that I had screwed up and I wasn't going to make it. I just don't know anymore. Maybe I'm dead. I've never been dead before. Maybe this is what it's like, and this is what I deserve for my shabby life, and maybe I'm just gonna be floating around out here forever. I felt all the hopelessness of people who'd been adrift at sea before and never came back, and nobody ever knew what happened to them. And here I was amongst them, and I could kind of feel them all around me. It just was a horribly desperate feeling. It was over. I was just done. I had no more to give. all of a sudden, it was like all kinds of crates and bottles and plastic. To me, that was the first definitive sign that I was coming into changes. I'm gonna see something. The sun rose. It was like, pff, there's an island in front of me. I couldn't have been more than 10 miles out. To see the green of the island was like, it was it was intense.
But to his horror, Steve realizes that the island is an impregnable fortress of vertical cliffs and razor-sharp coral reefs.
Oh my God, I've come all this way, and there's no way I can make a landing.
After enduring so much for so long, Steve can't let salvation slip away from him at the final hurdle.
This voyage is ending today. No question about it. One way or the other, this is going to come to an end. That's great. Somebody's actually, I couldn't believe somebody was actually out there.
On the morning of his 76th day adrift, Steve is spotted by some local fishermen.
He said something to the effect of like, "What you doing out here, man?" You know, it's like, well, I'm not out here, you know, improving my suntan. My senses were like plugged into an electric circuit somehow. They were all amplified so that every color was like really, really vibrant and every smell was really, really intense. It just was like heart-wrenching. It was so beautiful to me.
Having endured 76 days in his tiny raft, Steve's leg muscles have atrophied and he weighs just 100 pounds. After 6 weeks in the hospital, Steve is reunited with the parents he thought he'd never see again. The small island of Marie-Galante, where he's found, is just 60 miles south of his original destination, Antigua.
There's nothing noble in me having survived. It's just what I did. I had too much unfinished business, and I think that kept me alive to a large degree.
Below deck, Travis, Roger, and Steve Guy try to get some sleep before taking over for the night watch.
It wasn't my time to go on deck yet. I just decided, okay, I'll get up, I'll get something to eat, I'll go, you know, shoot the breeze with the guys on deck and see what's up and start getting settled in. That's when it all started going downhill.
Finding water inside the cabin is not unusual, but Travis instinctively suspects something is badly wrong.
I opened up the floorboard, and it just came pouring in.
Roger! Roger! We got water! Hey, Steve! Steve!
What's going on?
We're taking on water! Start the engine!
It's every sailor's worst nightmare. The boat's hull has a serious leak. Due to a previous incident, the keel, the huge balancing weight at the bottom of the boat, has cracked along its mount.
Joe, get ready to douse the sails.
Okay!
Skipper Steve knows that they're in terrible trouble, and they must drop the sails to slow down. But before the guys can get the sails down,
the keel of the vessel parted completely, came off, and the boat went instantly into the water.
The boat just laid over into the water, just completely horizontal.
All of a sudden, the lights go out. The engine shuts off.
What happened? I don't know!
up on deck, Skipper Steve is clinging to the capsized boat.
I was hanging underneath the boat because it wasn't still up out of the water at that point, thinking it was time to go.
The boat's going down! Everybody off! Unclip yourselves!
In just a matter of seconds, the boat has completely overturned. Steve and the two students on deck escaped the sinking boat.
Come on, guys. Hey, did you see anybody? No.
But Roger, Travis, and Steve Guy are trapped inside. And seawater is flooding in.
I'm not dying in here!
Yeah, I screamed it, I'm not dying in here. This is not where I'm gonna die.
Unless they can find a way out of the cabin, they are just seconds from being dragged to the bottom of the ocean.
Emotion's telling you at that point, you're screwed. I mean, there is no way out of a situation like this.
The water level is rising rapidly. Unless they can get out, they're just seconds from being dragged down with the sinking boat.
How do we get out of here? Through the hatch!
Their only escape route is a tiny hatch, but a powerful wall of seawater is pouring through it.
Are you kidding? Come on, it's the only way!
I'm sitting there thinking to myself, how am I gonna swim through here? I don't even think an Olympic swimmer could actually get through this with all the water rushing through.
Let me try. Let me try. I can't do it! I can't do it!
We couldn't even hope to match the flow. I was hoping to grab the sides of it and force my way out, but the first time I tried that, it blew me right back.
Steve Conway can do nothing but wait for the three men to emerge.
I didn't really know what was going on down below, but my biggest concern was that Roger, Steve Guy, and Travis weren't able to get out of the vessel and drown.
Gotta get out of here, man. What are we gonna do?
I was terrified beyond belief. I don't even want to see what my face looked like at that point.
Take a deep breath. Go for it. I'll push you through. It's your only chance.
As I was trying to go down the second time, Roger grabbed my legs and pushed.
Travis! Over here! Hey, Travis! Travis! Roger! Hey! Okay, I got you! I got you! All right. Okay. Guys, did you see Steve? Yeah, he's behind me!
You're next. Go for it.
What about you?
I'll follow. Come on. Do it now.
Steve! 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 Come here! Come here! Come on. Go and do it. I got you. Okay. Hold on. Hold on. Hey. We got you.
5 of the 6 crew are now out of the boat, but there is still 1 man missing. They wait. But Roger Stone fails to appear.
Nobody knew what happened to Roger. Nobody had seen him come out the other side. We didn't know if Roger was in the boat or if Roger was floating off in a different direction.
Should we go back and get him? What do you think, Steve? No.
I would have never let anybody go back in. In the situation we're in with all the lines out and underwater, there was no real chance that somebody would be able to dive underneath, get in there.
I could have gone inside the boat with absolutely no lighting whatsoever, felt my way around and never found him, even if he was in there, because there's too many nooks and crannies in that place. And I would have had to do it all on 1 breath of air.
He's an experienced yachtsman. He'll be fine. He'll stay with the boat.
The crew now have to focus on their own survival. Steve Guy has escaped the boat with no life jacket.
Travis! Travis! Go to the boat! Okay! Get the ring! We'll go! Okay.
Skipper Steve sends the crew back to the boat to get the emergency flotation ring.
All right, hold on. Yeah, okay.
It was very crucial. We already knew that Steven didn't have a life jacket. If he had the horseshoe ring, he'd have something to float with.
The guys have only moments to grab it before the boat sinks, but it's tangled in a web of matted ropes. Releasing the ring is an impossible task with their life jackets on.
Try it without your jacket! No! No! Don't take off your jackets! Do whatever you can, but keep your jackets on! Okay. Wait.
Skipper Steve and the young student are being dragged away in the current. He knows he must take immediate action.
About 3:30 in the morning, I remember thinking, we're floating along, we're all lashed together, 4 to 6 foot waves, and thinking that I really ought to be on a boat about 10 miles farther south sailing. It was almost dreamlike and surreal.
As they drift on the ocean current, Steve Guy spots something on the horizon.
Did you see that?
It's one of the many unmanned oil rigs dotted around the Mexican Gulf. And for young Steve, an obvious way out of the ordeal.
To me, there it was, and we're getting pushed down to it. It almost seemed like we were circling around it, like someone upstairs was saying, "Hey, look, guys, there's a platform for you." I thought it was worth trying to swim towards the platform.
You think we could swim there?
It's about 7 miles away.
How can you tell?
Well, when you're in the ocean, the line of the horizon is about 7 or 8 miles away.
And distance isn't the only problem.
So I have to realize that that structure is 100 and something feet over the water, And even if you swim to it, how do you get out of the water?
What do we do when we get there, huh? How do we get on it?
Travis was the student skipper and sort of second after me, so he was my rock that I stuck with as far as any kind of discussion about what should we do. Should we try to swim? Should we do this or that?
We'd be swimming against the wind. We use up all our energy. And for what?
It was kind of disheartening when the decision was made to just kind of drift past it.
Skipper Steve makes the decision to conserve their energy. They're now pinning all their hopes on rescuers finding them. But even staying put is no guarantee of safety. The Mexican Gulf is a shark-infested body of water.
Big sharks. Those are the ones you worry about. Tigers are probably the most risky. They get really large.
And it's not long before Steve's worst fears are realized.
And I saw a triangular fin go by. None of the other guys saw it.
Desperate to ensure the young crew stay calm, Steve keeps the sighting to himself.
I'm certainly not going to say something that's going to unnecessarily concern them. If there's something they need to know, I was sharing it with them. But they didn't need to know it, and they didn't need to know it. For me, I think there was a sense of relief as the sun rose. I remember thinking, okay, it's light. And just psychologically, I think the light was reassuring. We could see more of what was around us. Less risk of something surprising us, certainly.
And with the morning light comes the hope that a search will soon be launched.
What's gonna happen is this.
I started walking the students through what would happen. We had a normal 8 o'clock call-in on our satellite radio. Every morning at 8 o'clock, I called in and said, here's where we're at, we're okay. And just did a daily check-in.
About 8 o'clock, they'll start listening for us. I figure about 8:15, they'll call the Coast Guard.
So, when do you think they'll send out a search?
Well, I figure about 10 o'clock, we'll see the first planes.
What if they don't find us? Will they stop searching?
Oh, not for a long time yet, buddy. I figure about 8 to 10 days.
This kind of a search, you just keep it up long past there's any chance of people surviving, actually.
But dawn also brings with it the intense heat of the morning sun.
The sun was out, none of us had caps on. Fairly quickly, we started to burn.
My God, it was hot as heck. It felt like being in a sauna. How we were just boiling.
By midday, it's been 13 hours since the boat sank, but there's still no sign of rescue.
We should be seeing something. We should be seeing, planes or hearing planes fly over, even at a distance. It was getting to the point where we were all very tired.
Steve Conway knows he must keep his crew focused. On the horizon is the oil rig, the same one they saw the previous night.
Let's swim for the rig.
Hope you'd agreed that was a dumb idea.
Well, I changed my mind. With the wind behind us, I think we can make it.
Only hours earlier, they'd rejected swimming to the rig because it was just too far away.
Come on.
Having dismissed the exact same thing probably 12 hours ago, I clearly thought that rig was a good idea.
It gave us a focus, it gave us an objective, it gave us a sense that we were doing something beyond just floating to help ourselves.
The life jackets were very much starting to chafe on us and starting to really rub parts of our skin raw. So I, at one point, stripped out of mine and gave it to Steven.
I gotta get Steve my jacket.
Oh, thank you, Travis.
The men swim for over 2 hours. But they're making almost no progress towards the rig. And the effort is draining.
It was the dumbest thing I can think of possibly doing in retrospect, because I was thinking that rig was probably about 5-10 miles away, but my perspective significantly skewed at that point. The energy expenditure of trying to swim against the waves and against the wind, you're not going to get very far for the amount of energy that you're going to put out.
Despite their desperately slow progress, the crew struggles on towards the rig. But exhaustion is not their only enemy.
Stay calm. Swim this way. You don't want to be on the wrong side of that. Come on.
We saw a Portuguese man-o-war, which is a jellyfish. Behind them will run anywhere from 20, 30, 50, 60 feet of tentacles stretched out with stingers on them.
The long, deadly tentacles are filled with venom.
As long as you stay away from them, you're fine. But you get stung by one of them and you're dead.
We saw him drifting toward us.
We knew we had to swim quickly.
Swim harder. Come on. Faster. Come on. Come on. Okay.
They finally escape the deadly jellyfish. But they've pushed themselves to the limit. Getting to the rig now is impossible. Exhausted and dehydrated, they're forced to abandon their attempt. They've now been in the water for over 14 hours, and the ordeal is starting to take a terrible physical toll.
By about 2 o'clock, it had been roughly 24 hours since I had last had any kind of food or drink, and I figured everybody else was in the same position. Fairly dehydrated from being out there in the water and sweating it all out all day.
He's right. It's pointless.
The men now believe their hope of rescue is gone, and with the second night fast approaching, they fear death will take them one by one.
It was so late at that point that we all kind of were probably thinking the same thing. It's, you know, they haven't seen us yet. We're not doing well at all. Somebody's gonna be going pretty soon.
Come on. Come on, guys. Joe, come here. Travis, come here. Come on. Closer. Come on. In together. That's it. Good. Come on. We stay together, right?
A whole day, with no protection against the blazing sun, has pushed the crew to the edge.
The lower portion of my stomach was burned. My arms were burned, my legs were burned, and my face was burned. I wanted the burn to go away. Dear God, did I want the burn to go away.
As the sun drops, the temperature plummets, and the fight to stay cool turns into a battle to keep warm.
It was getting to the point where we were all very tired. I think I probably blacked out for a few seconds every now and then.
Come on. Sorry, closer. Sorry. Come on. Keep warm, guys. Keep. Okay. We'll be all right.
With light fading, the rescue helicopters begin to disappear over the horizon. And Skipper Steve drops a bombshell.
Guys, we may not see another helicopter until tomorrow morning.
Are you kidding? There's no way we can last another night.
I was deathly afraid of the impact of the young men I was with dying on their families. To be in any way responsible for somebody, a parent, losing a child, I couldn't imagine.
Let me tell you about a case study that I read. A fishing boat overturned. And a very fit 22-year-old football player died. But a 68-year-old grandmother survived.
How come?
Afterwards, they interviewed the grandmother and they asked, how was it your grandson, who was so much fitter, died? And she goes, I wasn't gonna give up. I wasn't going to die.
You've got to have a fierce will to live. You've just got to never give up.
The will to survive is the most critical thing for us to make it through. We must never give up, okay?
Never giving up was the critical thing for our survival.
But the will to live isn't enough to protect the crew from the effects of severe hypothermia.
Your core temperature starts to fall. Once it gets below 95 degrees, down to around 90 degrees, you die. You just go to sleep. It's not especially traumatic. You just fall asleep and don't wake up.
Joe started going in and out of it because he I guess he fell asleep. And he started reaching over and started grabbing Ross's face.
Joe. Hey, Joe, what are you doing? Sorry.
Ross, the smallest of the group, is beginning to drift in and out of consciousness.
Ross was in the worst situation because the rest of us are fairly big guys. Ross had zero body fat, so he had no insulation like the rest of us, and it was noticeably affecting him more. He wasn't talking at this point.
Skipper Steve has done all he can to keep his crew alive. But after nearly 20 hours in the sea, he too is now fading fast.
We'd all been out in the water the same amount of time. The bigger guys would have probably lasted an hour, maybe two more. But if Steve was going, we didn't have much more time either.
The 5 sailors have now been in the ocean for over 24 hours. They've done everything they can to withstand their ordeal. But they're losing the battle to survive.
You know, in the dark, it's kind of depressing. Just this vast expanse of ocean. I felt really small, you know. Here you are, you feel like a grain of sand in the world.
They've suffered acute exposure to the sun, extreme dehydration and hypothermia, and are now just hours from death.
Nobody was saying, oh my God, they're not going to find us, oh my God, you know, we're going to die out here. Nobody had vocalized it. But we all kind of were probably thinking the same thing.
Steve Conway has done all he can to keep his young crew alive. But now he knows that with no sign of rescue, his quest to survive has failed.
I was scared of what the impact would be on my wife. We'd been married at that point 30 years, and we're best friends and still very, very close. We've seen other people lose spouses, and it's hard. In no heroic way at all, but just matter-of-factly, as I was floating in the water, I realized I wasn't afraid of dying.
Drifting in and out of consciousness, the 5 men can now do nothing more but await death's final call. Then, out in the darkness, comes the sight they've been dreaming of.
Then all of a sudden, every light on that helicopter came on.
The rescue search hadn't been abandoned for the night. The Coast Guard had tracked the ocean currents, which eventually led them to the missing crew.
Everyone just screamed it. I'm happy, you know, we're going home.
It all really set in that it's finally done, it's finally over. You know, we're getting out of this and we're getting out of it alive.
The 5 men were airlifted to the hospital, and they all made a complete recovery. But when the Coast Guard finally salvaged the sunken Cynthia Woods, they found the body of missing crew member Roger Stone.
Nothing we say or nothing we can do can honor Roger more than his actions of the 6th of June 2008 when he stopped, got those 2 students oriented out through the flowing water, out of the boat, ultimately at the risk and sacrifice of his own life. And so it's never appropriate to talk about this without recognizing Roger's sacrifice and the sacrifice of his wife and 2 children.
I would not have made it without Roger's help.
I do think about Roger, and when I do, it makes me want to go live my life to the fullest possible way, because life's short, and I realize that floating out there.
The only thing I decided to do different when I got back was that I was going to savor things more. Not the big things, but the little things. Over Christmas, I was holding my grandson probably for the 14,000th times, and I stopped for a minute and I thought, this is just wonderful. And my takeaway message as I hold him and have my daughters and my wife around me is life is wonderful. You just have to savor it. And that's what I'm doing different.
The family has already sailed 20,000 miles.
You all set?
They're now on the last leg of their journey, leaving the South Pacific island of Raiatea and heading for Australia, 3,500 miles away.
Australia, we were going to sell the boat and go back home and put the kids back to school and go back to work.
Okay, guys, come on, let's go.
The family has spent the last 21 months on John's pride and joy, an 80-foot catamaran, the Emerald Jane, bought from his 20 years of hard work in the construction industry.
There's a clanking sound up at the mast. Something that had never happened to us before.
You see anything? Shackle. Where? It's loose.
And the boom was now smashing into the mast repeatedly. And we wrestled with that problem for probably 2 hours.
But John and Ben can't fix the sail.
Yeah, I think we leave it for the night, Ben.
I say, look, we'll fix this thing in daylight.
Watch the side.
We have to drop the mainsail down. And we continue on like that.
As dusk falls, John sets the boat's navigation system to avoid one of the many tiny islands that dot the Pacific Ocean. And the Emerald Jane heads into the sunset.
It's glorious. It's glorious. I'm just like at one with the universe.
I start to hear this scraping sound. It's very light. And I just think in my head, well, maybe it's a floating coconut palm or something we've just hit.
Go back to your picture on it. It's great.
There's this sharp bang sound.
Then it starts to get louder and louder.
I run into the salon. Like chalk on a board on steroids, man. It's just ripping our ears apart. And my son's voice coming from the cockpit, one word.
Reef! Reef!
He's screaming, reef.
We looked at each other in horror.
And in that same second, I hear this big boom.
I just got thrown a good 5-10 feet.
The Emerald Jane has smashed into a submerged coral reef. John slams the boat's engines into reverse. The boat grinds to a halt on the reef. But their ordeal has only just begun.
This giant wave hits the boat.
The ocean has punched its way through the hull of the boat.
The water just comes shooting through, exploding. I feel like I'm in the scene from Titanic. I just looked at John's eyes, and you can tell he's scared. He's really, really frightened. He doesn't know what to do, and I don't know what to do.
The whole dream of my life was all disintegrating right in front of my eyes. And they're screaming, I don't want to die, I don't want to die.
In just a matter of seconds, the Silverwood's idyllic sailing trip has turned into a living hell. The Emerald Jane is being ground into a reef in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and is being battered by violent waves.
I know that we're in a world, just a world of hurt.
Seawater is engulfing the vessel, and the cabin is slowly flooding.
Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is the sailing vessel Emerald Jane. We're at latitude and longitude. I can hear French voices, just like static in the universe. But I can't get through.
The boat's satellite phone should work anywhere on Earth. It's a direct line to call for rescue.
And my hands are shaking so hard. I drop the phone, so the phone just dies.
One of these big waves breaks directly over the middle of the boat. Dad! I'm flat on my back. And I look down, and what I see is just impossible. That mast, that 80-foot mast, is laying right across my legs.
The huge force of the wave has snapped the Emerald Jane's mast.
This huge surge of electric pain just barrages it explodes in my brain.
I heard my dad scream.
The falling mast has also hit Ben, striking him on the head.
My head was just pounding, like my ears were ringing, and I could feel like, you know when you can feel your heartbeat in your head?
And the next thing I know, there's Ben's face, you know? He's got blood coming down both sides of his face, and he's looking down at me. And I pull myself up and doing a sit-up. I'm confronted with these two white bones, the remains of my lower leg, and they're shattered.
You can see the bones sticking out like toothpicks almost out of the side.
The mast has almost completely severed John's leg below the knee.
And beneath that, there's just this pool of blood that's spreading on the deck.
Ben tries to free his father from under the 2,500-pound mast.
This thing is 80 feet long. It's impossible.
And I couldn't like just pull it out.
He's losing huge amounts of blood from his shattered leg. And Ben knows that unless he can find a way to stem the flow, his dad has only minutes to live.
He was in a huge amount of trouble.
Dad! I said, Ben, my leg's broken. I'm trapped. You're in charge of the boat now. You've got to take care of the family. I watched his eyes. I could watch his expression and how it changed. Becoming a man. I could see that come over his face. And he just looks at me and he says, Dad! Dad, I'm gonna get you out of here.
I really didn't think about what the actual burden was on me or the responsibility. My reaction was just to keep doing stuff.
Or his dad will die.
Within minutes, there's my son.
It's gonna hurt.
And he's got an idea. He takes that line and he wraps it around my thigh. And he's got these big screwdrivers.
I wrapped it around as many times as I possibly could and then linked it together.
Ben's tourniquet cuts the circulation to his dad's leg.
Without that effort, I probably would have died within 10 minutes.
With John pinned down beneath the immovable mast, the Silverwood family can do nothing but hunker down and pray for the waves to subside. But there's just no let-up.
I just remember those waves, the sound of those waves. You could just hear the roar get bigger and bigger. And closer, until finally the wave would strike.
Out of that whole horrible abyss that I was lost in, there just came this single word, and that word was no. I wasn't gonna quit, I was gonna fight. I was not going to give up. Out of nowhere, a huge wave slams into Emerald Jane. I see the mast, it's being lifted higher than ever before. In that same second, I pushed as hard as I could. And then the mast slapped back down on the deck and I was free.
But 3 hours under the mast have left John in a terrible condition.
It made my stomach turn just to see his leg just hanging by, I mean, literally a piece of skin.
I fell into an abyss of despair, like a free fall. I knew that I'd taken my wife and my kids out to this godforsaken reef. This whole thing was my idea. I understand completely what's going on. I was not concerned about myself. If there was no way to get me in, well, that was that.
Now, as head of the family, Ben is faced with getting the 3 young children off the boat and across the reef to the tiny outcrop of dry rock.
As soon as the wave broke and started to recede, that's when I jumped off the boat. The reef is so sharp, the little coral spikes would go right through my sandals. I had coral cutting my feet every time I took a step.
They're cutting up their legs every which way.
We have the waves breaking on our legs, and our legs are getting absolutely cut up. At that point, I gave my brother the little emergency beacon.
Hold this, keep tight, yeah?
I told him, Jack, do not let go of this. This is our only way anyone can possibly find us.
you've got to get off the boat now, too. You've got to get off the boat.
Alone on the boat, John is now in the final stages of life. And he begins to give up.
There was no possibility of saving me out there. And I don't have any hopes whatsoever of being rescued. This little piece of boat that I'm on is going to just slide off the edge of the reef, and I'm going to sink a mile down to the bottom of the ocean.
But the thought of watching John die alone on the boat haunts Ben and his mum.
If we don't get him off the boat, he doesn't have a chance. He doesn't have a chance. I have to get him off the boat.
Ben decides to head back to the boat.
Mom, go to the life raft. I'm gonna go to Dad.
But the life raft is hopelessly tangled in a web of rope. Jean pulls at the life raft for over an hour.
Every bit of my mind, every bit of muscle I have, I'm grunting, I'm practically drowning out there. After about 40 minutes, I was completely exhausted. I couldn't do it.
Jean launches into a frenzy, a crazed frenzy, trying to push this raft out.
But just as it seems it will never be freed,
The life raft just comes popping out.
She just yelled at me like, I got it, I got it. We have the waves breaking on our legs and pushing us into the boat, and our legs are getting just absolutely cut up. I had to use all my strength to just lift his upper body and slide that in.
And the pain was intense. It was just a series of explosions, you know? I remember the tears that were just streamed down the side of my eyes. And my teeth are just grit. My son was the ray of hope, the ray of light, the steady hand.
My worries were the life raft would pop some point on the reef, like before we were able to get him to safety.
Every one of those steps, there's just these explosions of pain. It's just pure agony, you know? That kind of pain, it takes maybe an hour to even begin to leave you. That peak of pain.
Finally, the whole family is off the boat. But it's been 10 hours since they crashed and set off their emergency beacon. And John is close to death.
I knew my dad didn't have very long to live. I knew he wasn't going to last like till the next day.
It's been 12 hours since the Silverwoods activated their emergency distress signal. But there's been no sign of rescue. Clinging to a tiny outcrop of rock, the family has all but given up hope. And inside the life raft, John is barely conscious, on the edge of death.
I'm surrounded by darkness. I don't have any connection with reality. I would pray, I'd ask God, in return for my own suffering, in return for my own passing, would you please save the life of my wife? Save the life of my kids.
Ben has done everything he can to save his dad. He can do no more. He's now resigned to his father's death.
As the sun came up, I could see this little star flying on the horizon. So I thought it could be a plane.
Help! Help!
I was ecstatic, like someone knew we were there.
And it gets right over us and it starts circling, just circles around and around and around.
But no sooner has the plane flown over them than it disappears over the horizon.
I could see the glimmer from the star kind of just diminished.
Our hearts sank because we realized, you know, we're not going to get rescued.
Two more hours pass, and there's no sign of the plane returning.
Time was definitely running out for my dad. We need like a medic or a doctor here now. I see this boat on the horizon.
The family's emergency beacon had led the plane to the reef. But unable to land, the crew alerted local fishermen on a nearby island. "15 hours after their boat was shipwrecked, their ordeal is finally over."
That was when I finally let go. I just grabbed Ben and I held him and I cried. I can't even tell you the feeling of elation.
I was just relieved, like I just dropped a huge bag or something.
We're actually going to get out of this situation.